Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I will be talking about my top 10 most anticipated releases for the year of 2022. I should preface this by saying that I'm only discussing books that actually have a release date. One book that is honestly my number one most anticipated release is Brandon Sanderson's book, The Lost Metal, which is the fourth book in the Wax and Wayne series that is finishing up that era of Mistborn. That is, without a doubt, the book I'm looking forward to the most. However, I am not including it on this list necessarily because we don't have a firm release date from Sanderson quite yet. It is likely that we will soon, but I don't have anything concrete that I could give out. And so that's why I'm kind of waiting to see whether we get a release date or not from that. But I do have my top 10 anticipated releases for the year of 2022, and some of these you'll probably see coming, and some I think might surprise some people. And so the way I'm doing this, I will not be going through and ranking them 10 to 1, my least favorite to most favorite or anything. I'm going to be going through when they're released. So we'll start in January and move on. Now, a lot of the later books from the second half of the year haven't even been announced yet. We don't know what time they're coming out, so my list just about only goes through July. However, that's still a lot of books to get through. I have 10 that I'm going to get through today. So, to begin with, the first book I'm talking about is Star Wars: The High Republic, The Fallen Star, and this book is by Claudia Gray and releases January 4th of 2022. This is the third adult novel in the High Republic series. It is the part of Wave 3 of the High Republic, of the first phase, and it is wrapping up this phase, and it's bringing everything to a head, and it's going to be truly epic. The first book of the adult, if talking specifically about the adult novels, was Light of the Jedi, which was written by Charles Soule. It was utterly fantastic. I loved reading it. And then you had the second book, which was written by Cavan Scott, which was The Rising Storm, which was also utterly fantastic. I love both of those books, some of my favorite books in the Star Wars canon. And so this book is written by Claudia Gray, who's one of my favorite authors from the canon. So you combine my favorite author, my favorite series, it's all coming together. And so I am truly excited to see what she does. I much prefer Claudia Gray's adult novels to her young adult novels, so I am really interested in what she can deliver here. And so that book comes out January 4th. The second book on my list, coming out January 11th, is Gods and Dragons by Kevin J. Anderson. Kevin J. Anderson, of course, used to write Star Wars books, so if you're a Star Wars reader, you will not be surprised to see his name on the list because he's a great author. He's also worked in the Dune universe, which is really big right now, but he wrote two books of fantasy that I loved, which were Spine of the Dragon and Vengelore, and both of these books were some of my favorite epic fantasy books. I don't know if I'd put the series as one of my top favorite fantasy series, but as individual novels, I highly enjoyed them. And I absolutely cannot wait for Gods and Dragons to come out. It's going to wrap up the trilogy. It's going to bring everything to head. If you've read any of those books, you know there's so many plot lines happening, and they're all coming together in one big moment. And I love the world building. I would love to see this as a limited series somewhere. So I can't wait to read book 3, and it's coming in January. One of the things I like about Kevin J. Anderson is he's consistent, he's good, he's not always great, but he's always good, and he always delivers on his promises and delivers on his, hey, I'm going to write a book. He actually writes the book. The third book on my most anticipated releases list is Star Wars: The High Republic Midnight Horizon by Daniel Jose Older. This book comes out February 1st, so we're now venturing into February. This book is a young adult book. It is part of the High Republic series. It is part of the same wave of books that the adult novel The Fallen Star was part of. This novel, Midnight Horizon, is going to focus on some characters that we don't necessarily know yet, but it's going to be a longer book. It's clocking in around 490 pages as of our current estimates. And I've really enjoyed Daniel Jose Older's work. Some people think he's controversial. Last Shot was not loved by many, but I enjoyed reading it. I thought it was funny, and I enjoyed his High Republic middle grade novel. I enjoyed it much more than I enjoyed the other middle grade novel, and so I think that he has potential to turn in a good story here. And based off the blurb of the book, I'm highly interested in it. So that book comes out February 1st. We're going to take a little bit of a time jump and go to April, and that is for April 5th is going to see the release of Star Wars Queen's Hope by E.K. Johnston. This book is a very difficult book to discuss because E.K. Johnston makes a lot of decisions in her writing that I don't care about. And I understand that she's writing for a different audience, but at the same time there's a basic audience that you have to appeal to for a Star Wars book. If you're writing a Star Wars novel, you have to appeal to all the people that read Star Wars novels. If you want to make it especially appealing to readers of a certain subset, that's fine, but it should be generally appealing as well. And Queen's Queen's Shadow kind of did that. It struggled to appeal to everyone, but I think it made it across the line that everyone was okay and everyone was interested in what it had to say. But Queen's Peril, which came out last year, I was frustrated by it. I didn't think that it was well written. I thought that E.K. Johnston made a lot of decisions that were specifically designed to tick off certain subsets of fans, and I don't want to get into spoilers now, but if you've read the book, you know what I'm referring to. And I just think that she is a bit indulgent at times in telling what she wants rather than what the reader wants. But I have hope. See what I did there? Queen's Hope. I have hope that this next book will be a good one. And so we'll see. And of course, it's narrated by the actress who voices Padme on the Clone Wars. It's voiced by, why am I blanking on her name? Someone in the comment section will say. And she always does a great job with everything she does. So the next book on my list, the fifth book on my most anticipated, is Star Wars Brotherhood. You see a lot of Star Wars books on here. It's not all Star Wars, as you saw earlier, but it's mostly Star Wars. Star Wars Brotherhood by Mike Chen. This comes out on May 10th. This was a recent announcement, so we don't know too much about it, but it deals with Obi-Wan and Anakin set earlier on in their relationship. And, of course, I love Obi-Wan, and I love Anakin, I love the prequels, and I love all the stuff relating to the master and apprentice dynamic. So this book automatically has me excited. And it's an adult novel from Del Rey, which is interesting because I find the adult novels more interesting than the YA. So I'm automatically excited, even though I don't know Mike Chen, any of his work, or anything like that. The next book on my list is a Star Trek book. Yes! Star Trek Picard, Second Self by Una McCormack. If you know me, you know I'm not a big fan of New Trek when it refers to Discovery or Picard. I thought Picard was watchable, but I just couldn't get through Discovery. I really tried. I tried 3 times to get through Discovery, and it just was not appealing to me. However, I love the Star Trek books. The Star Trek Picard books in particular, The Last Best Hope, by Una McCormack, and Rogue Elements by John Jackson Miller really elevated the show for me and made me more interested in the series. And so this book is written by Una McCormack, who is one of the best Star Trek authors out there. And I think that she has a unique capability to make me appreciate series more. She made me appreciate Deep Space Nine with her novel from the fall, The Crimson Shadow, and she made me appreciate Picard with her novel The Last Best Hope. So I believe that Second Self is going to be a great book. The next book on my list is Star Wars Stories of Jedi and Sith. It is an anthology, and this is coming out on June 7th. What makes this book interesting is that we had another anthology come out in 2020, and that was the stories, Clone Wars stories of Light and Dark. And that anthology was just retellings of episodes of the Clone Wars, except for one new story. And I loved reading the style. The style of storytelling was brilliant in that book. But they were all rehashes of stories we already got, just from new perspectives. This one appears to be entirely new stories, but in the same style, which gets me really excited. I'm not a big fan of short story collections, but I really enjoyed the style, whether it was the typeface or the author's style or just the way they put it all together and the artwork. Everything worked for me with that last one, except for the fact that it was rehashes. So new stories added to all that is a definite win. So I'm super excited for that. And that is, of course, June 17th. Then we have June 28th. We have Star Wars Shadow of the Sith by Adam Christopher. Adam Christopher's had a tough time recently because he wrote an entire Star Wars novel to tie into The Mandalorian, and then it got canceled. I wonder why that was. Gina Carano. And so if he couldn't do that, they wanted him to still be able to write a novel for Star Wars because he put in the time and he apparently, in their minds, did a good job. And so he wrote Star Wars Shadows of the Sith, which follows Luke and Lando trying to find Exegol. That was a plot line that I thought was weak yet enjoyable in The Rise of Skywalker, and I think that one thing that makes Star Wars books great, in a similar way that makes Star Trek books great, is that they elevate problems, they make them work, they make them those movies or TV shows more enjoyable. And so this book is sure to make people more excited about The Rise of Skywalker and feel more okay with the decisions made there. And that book is, of course, coming out June 28th. Then we have, this is my first, pure sci-fi book, and this is called The Icarus Plot by Timothy Zahn, and this comes out July 5th. I am a little bit confused about this book because you had The Icarus Hunt, which is probably Timothy Zahn's most celebrated standalone book that he's written. It is very much beloved by the people who've actually read it. However, this book is published by a different publisher. That book was through Bantam. This one's new one, The Icarus Plot, is through Bain. That book specifically mentioned everything with the Icarus Hunt. This book doesn't even reference it in the blurb, unless I'm totally mistaking something. And the art style is very newer. It's very much more like a Supernatural, the TV show Supernatural style, whereas the old one was a classic sci-fi style. So I don't know if they're actually interconnected. But I always love reading new Timothy Zahn books. I think he's a great author, and he's one of those that I'll read just about anything he writes. I haven't read anything that he's done with David Weber, but that's because I don't really care for David Weber's writing. But anything new that he writes, especially if it has the potential to link up with something old that I loved, is a must-read for me. And the final book, the number 10 book on my list of most anticipated releases of 2022, is Star Wars Padawan by Kiersten White, that comes out July 26th. Full disclosure, I've never read anything by Kiersten White. However, I have watched videos where she was part of the trivia contest that they had at San Diego Comic-Con, and I've heard her talk in interviews, and she seemed to be genuinely excited about Star Wars and about writing in those interviews. Couple that with the fact that this is a book featuring Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, two of the best characters in Star Wars, and I loved their dynamic in Master and Apprentice, and this one's going to tell an even new dynamic for them, and so that just gets me utterly excited. And even though it's a YA, which isn't my favorite genre, I think there's lots of hope that it's really hard to do Qui-Gon dirty because he's just such a good character. He's just got some great lines, and his voice is so distinct that it stands out well in the books. So I'm super excited to read that book. So there were 7 Star Wars books on my list. There was 1 Star Trek book, 1 sci-fi book, and 1 fantasy book. And there will be inevitably more books to come when they're announced. I should point out that I said there's only 1 Star Trek book. That's because only 1 Star Trek book's been announced, and we're almost into 2022. We need to announce more books because this year we had like 8 or 9, but we should get back to the point where we have 11 or 12 Star Trek books every year, 1 a month. And so I'm really kind of disappointed in Simon & Schuster and Gallery Books that they haven't announced more. But I have one Star Trek book on there. I have a fantasy. There will be more fantasy books, inevitably, as they're announced. I just haven't gotten there yet. And they haven't been given firm release dates. So let me know what your most anticipated releases of 2022 are, and let me know which books on my list you're excited for and which books you're not so excited for. Leave a comment down below. Please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Please share it with your friends, and continue to watch for more content from me. But until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.